And good afternoon, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise this afternoon not in support of this amendment. And I have a few questions for the proponent of the amendment. But before I do so, I'd like to make some brief remarks. You know, we stood up here a few weeks ago during the debate for minimum wage and spoke about Connecticut as a whole, the future that we see for our state, for our children, for our businesses, for our families. We heard from different business organizations and groups, special interests, lobbyists, all different folks that had a lot to say about where we should be going as a state this legislative session. When we talked about minimum wage a couple of weeks ago, I stood up here in the same spot and spoke briefly about how I thought minimum wage was not the way to go, that raising the minimum wage would hurt those that it was intended to help. Unfortunately, what I said and what folks on my side of the aisle voted for didn't pan out the way we had thought. The governor signed the bill in. Well, today, we're back with another bill that is bad for business. We have heard from the business community time and time again that they cannot make it in the state of Connecticut. These are not opinions. These are facts. If you look at where we are right now as a state compared to the rest of the nation, it is pretty scary. Unemployment, way up. Job creation, way down. We lost jobs in January, February, and March when the rest of the country gained jobs in each of those 3 months. We should be doing everything we can in this chamber to create an environment that is conducive for job growth, not one that prohibits businesses from hiring. When I look at this bill, and at the onset, I read a little bit about it, and I said, okay, you know what? The employer is not necessarily contributing anything into this bill. The employee is contributing it. So guess what came to my mind? The word tax. Another tax, this time in the form of a payroll tax, a mandatory payroll tax. When the government is mandating you to pay something, there is a problem. Now the government wants you to take 0.5% of your paycheck each year and give it to the Department of Labor. That's scary, considering that the state auditors jointly came out with 19 problems with the Department of Labor, and now we are going to hand them this football and say, here, run with it, take other people's money and dispense it the way you see fit. That is a problem. The governor has seen a problem with this, which is why he has expressed concern with this bill. There is a lot of uncertainty in this bill. The definition of family comes into question. Abuse, fraud, how sick is too sick? What constitutes a qualifying event? These are all situations that we spoke about at length during the committee process. All of those questions remained unanswered, unequivocally 100% unanswered. We are still trying to figure out what the definition of a family member is. It's somewhat disturbing to me as a conservative, as someone who is standing here trying to fight for what's left of our state in terms of the business community and job creators, to think that we are going to allow folks to take 12 weeks off for someone that is not directly related to them, that is, quote, the equivalent of a family member. The Labor Committee asked for, the Republicans asked for a hearing that the Labor and Public Employees Committee would put on to discuss the problems with the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor has some serious issues right now. You need not look further than what I mentioned about the auditors. Their report was disturbing. And the fact that we are going to give them $20 million to start this program up and then tell them, okay, you're going to just hire more people when you can't even handle what you have, that's a problem, folks. We have to start thinking in terms of fiscal responsibility. Growing a department that is not working well right now is not the way to go. a private partnership would be the way to go. And I'm sure later on into the evening, you are going to hear an alternative that will make this program affordable and appropriate for the state of Connecticut in our current fiscal crisis. And we are in a fiscal crisis. Companies are pleading with the state legislature to look out for them. They want to grow. If you look at the rest of the nation, you look at the states that are doing phenomenal, they are not implementing this program. The states that have implemented this program, similar to $15 an hour minimum wage, are in debt. I was always taught growing up to surround myself with people that I strive to be like. As a legislator, I want to look at states that have done better than us, states that got it right, states that are striving economically. The problem is, Connecticut is not striving economically. We're not looking at a state like South Carolina or Florida or Texas, states that are poaching our businesses. If we compare ourselves to California, what's left, folks? More and more debt. That's what we are getting with this bill. Because not only is this a payroll tax, but the solvency comes into question over the next several years. And the real issue becomes what happens when the program goes insolvent. You know, I am fortunate enough to work in a small family-owned business where, you know, we only employ a few individuals. So if we lose somebody, it hurts. I spoke about this during the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee hearing when we talked about paid family medical leave. If you understand what it's like to own a business, then you understand that losing someone that's valuable to you for 4 hours at a time or 12 weeks at a time is problematic. And you also understand that you just can't replace somebody overnight. As a business owner, I just can't call another contractor and say, hey, my electrician's out for a week and a half right now. I need to find someone. They don't understand the job. They don't understand the client. They perhaps are not certified in the area that they have to work. So our job here is to look out for those folks. Again, this is not the large corporation. This isn't the Walmart of the world. This is the mom and pop store, the restaurant owner, the electrician, the plumber, the small facility that is a healthcare facility, convalescent home, that employs 20 or 30 people. Guess what? This piece of legislation affects each and every person because now the employee is paying into this fund, and of course, if they qualify under this bill, they are going to take the time off. So it now becomes difficult on the part of the employer. So as I alluded to when I first started, you know, the employer may say, okay, it's not costing me anything out of my pocket, but if you think twice, it's costing the employer his or her talent. And that could perhaps be even more troubling than paying the 0.05%. The fiscal note at this point is unknown. We're talking about $20 million to get this program started up, but we don't know how much it's going to cost. What if claims skyrocket? I'll give you an example. The town of Watertown, we're self-insured. We had an unbearable amount of claims 2 years ago. Folks that worked in the school department, folks that worked in highway department, police department, unbearable amount of claims. Spouses, children. We ended up having to take out $2.5 million in a month out of our general fund. This is a small budget we're talking about, to pay for these claims. Well, guess what? If these claims skyrocket under this program, guess who's going to foot the bill here? The taxpayers of Connecticut. We're either going to raid the general fund, or we're going to start raising the base pay and the rate that you pay into this. So maybe 0.05% becomes 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%. No one really knows. There is a federal FMLA law. I don't think there's anyone in this chamber that does not support medical leave for family members. I support medical leave for family members. And I certainly sympathize with those folks that need to take time off because they have someone that is truly ill. And again, I don't think there's one person on this side of the aisle or on that side of the aisle that disagrees with that statement. But the fact that the state of Connecticut is going to mandate each person to pay 0.05% of their yearly earnings into a fund that they may never use is unbelievable. And the fact that the city of Hartford is the insurance capital of the world, and that we are going to be creating our own insurance market within the Department of Labor is even more unbelievable. We're going against our own entities here in Hartford. We're going against our mantra, insurance capital of the world, but you know what, folks? You can't do it, we're gonna do it better than you. When the government says they're gonna do something better than the private sector, we should be very worried, especially in the state of Connecticut. If you make $1,000 a week, you're gonna be required to pay $260 a year into this fund. So let me repeat that. You make $1,000 a week, you're gonna pay $260 per year into a fund that's automatically deducted from your paycheck. And you are then going to be asked to go, if you need approval, and seek up to, I guess the minimum here, and we're gonna get to this in a minute, is 4 hours that you can take off under this law. Does that make any sense? 4 hours? I'm wondering, throughout these years that this bill has been negotiated, and I know it's been a while, and I know that legislators before me have tried to negotiate this bill, but I wonder if any single person sat down with a small business owner, a job creator across the state of Connecticut, and asked them, is this really beneficial for you? Is $15 an hour going to grow your business? Is tolling Connecticut highways going to grow your business? Is raising the taxes across the board going to, this is the problem here. We are trying to do too many things at once. I can sympathize with the good proponent of the bill that this is certainly in good faith, and that the idea of family medical leave ought to be considered. I think the problem is we have different ways of getting to the same spot. And that's where I differ from the good proponent. And with that, I do have a few questions for her.
Representative Porter, please prepare yourself. Representative Polletta, the good chairman is ready. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And through you to the proponent of the bill, under this bill, is there a definition of quote unquote family through you?
Representative Polletta, we are still on the amendment.
Oh, excuse me, and the amendment through you. Through you, under this amendment, could the good proponent point out to me the definition of family?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, the definition would be, and I'm gonna, individual related to the employee, blood or affinity, whose close association is the equivalent of these: son, daughter, spouse, parent, grandparent, grandchild, or sibling relationships. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
And through you, Madam Speaker, could the proponent give me the line numbers? Thank you.
Representative Porter.
Actually, I don't have the line number. I would have to find that. If you give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Is this 84? It's looking like it's contained between lines 79 through 106.
Well, through you, Madam Speaker, perhaps we could start, and I'm looking at this right now, at line 825 to 828, if I'm looking at this correctly in the amendment.
Okay.
Would that be, through you, Madam Speaker, the definition of family in this amendment? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker. I just asked that we pause for 1 second because I had the wrong amendment in my hand. and it should be 8:55. Let's see. Line 814 in section 17.
Will the chamber please stand at ease? Will the chamber come back to order? Representative Porter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I do apologize for the confusion. I was actually looking at a Republican amendment.
Okay, that's fine with me.
Got a little tossed around here, but if the good gentleman would go to line 825, LCO 9302. Family member means a spouse, sibling, son or daughter, grandparent, grandchild, or parent, or an individual related to the employee by blood or affinity whose close association the employee shows to be equivalent of those family relationships. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And through you, Madam Speaker, if the good proponent wants to adopt the Republican amendment to this bill, we could get this over with quick, and it would be a great weekend. But I don't think she's going to adopt that amendment. So, okay, thank you to the good proponent for her answer. So, in line 827 to 828, it says employee or by blood or affinity. Could the good proponent explain the word affinity through you?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I guess the best way to describe it that everybody can relate to, affinity would be the equivalent of a BFF, like a best friend, someone that has an association as either a sister or a brother or any of the other family members that we've listed in the language. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And thank you to the good proponent. And this is what's somewhat troubling about this amendment, which I'm assuming will become the underlying bill. So, a best friend. Let's just talk a minute about best friends. I have a number of best friends. When you run for office, it seems like everybody's your best friend in your district. And you know what? I have friends of mine that have been there for me since the day I was born. They've been friends of my parents. They've become friends of mine. They helped me when I ran for office. They helped me in hard times when I lost a family member. And you know, when I think of the word best friend, I can categorize 20 or 30 people that are not blood related to me as a best friend. Sometimes I can categorize my pet as a best friend. So I think that there is a major issue with that one word, affinity. And the reason being is because as a business owner, when someone comes to me and says, my best friend is sick and I need 2 weeks off, I'm going to be concerned about that. The state of Connecticut should be concerned about that, because how many people have best friends that need to be cared for? I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't have a best friend. If you're looking for a best friend, I'll give you my cell phone number. You could be my best friend. But that doesn't mean that you can take paid family medical leave to take care of me if I'm ill. There is an issue with this bill, and that is that the definition of family is not narrow enough. So when I look at lines 827 to 828 and I hear blood or affinity whose close association the employee shows to be equivalent of those family relationships, I think to myself, boy, there are going to be a lot of claims under this amendment/bill. The fraud component becomes significant when you widen the scope of who qualifies under this bill. So What if I, and through you, Madam Speaker, what if I claim that an individual, affinity, someone who is close to me is in need of my assistance? How do I then prove to my employer that that person is a best friend enough to take advantage of this amendment through you?
Representative Porter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's criteria and regs already set in place with the underlying bill for Family Medical Leave Act. You would have to meet those requirements in order to qualify. So you couldn't just say that your best friend, blah, blah, blah. You would have to actually meet the criteria and the regulations that have been set in place. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And through you, Madam Speaker, what are the criteria?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker. Could the kind gentleman please repeat the question? Through you.
Representative Polletta.
Sure. Through you, Madam Speaker, what are the criteria?
Representative Porter.
That would be the underlying bill, Madam Speaker, and I would have to find that information. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
Shall we move on and then we'll come back to that?
Since we're still on the amendment, if that's in the underlining bill, can we ask that?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Is there, and through you, Madam Speaker, is there a federal FMLA law currently in place through you?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, there is.
Representative Polletta.
And I guess that leads me to my next question. So we already have a federal law. So if a company offers this program already, then would they be exempt under this law through you?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, no.
Representative Polletta.
And through you, Madam Speaker, then if this goes into effect, this amendment's adopted and the bill becomes law, then if a company offers 12 weeks and this bill gives you another 12 weeks, then could someone potentially take through you 24 weeks off through you?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, this would be, no, they could not. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
I would differ with the good proponent of the bill. I do believe that under this bill, if a company already offers this program and this went into effect, then unless the company rescinded the program, then it's my understanding, and I'm going to ask you again through you, Madam Speaker, that an individual could then, I would hate to use the word double dip, but could use this program, both the program that's offered to them right now, and if it's not taken away, then they can also use the new law that will go into effect through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, the employer-provided benefit that you're currently speaking of would have to be equivalent to or greater than this benefit. If it was not, then the employee would pay 0.5% into the state program and would no longer be in that program. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Thank you, and thank you to the good chair. So, in essence here, what we're doing is we're punishing those that have offered this program already. There are many companies across the state of Connecticut that do offer some sort of paid leave for their employees that have an event that I'm sure are a qualifying event under this bill. So, in essence, we're telling them, well, the government can do it better. So, if you're offering this right now, take it away from your employees and use the government program. Again, goes against our core values here in that we are trying to supersede what companies are already doing. We're trying to one-up them. We're telling them that we have to mandate them to do something because we don't think that they're doing it good enough. That is a problem. And that is why companies that already offer this have come out and said, and organizations such as the NFIB and the CBIA have said already, this will hurt businesses across the state of Connecticut. I don't know a business owner in my district that would not allow someone to take time off if his or her spouse, had an issue, was in a terrible accident, if an individual's wife, had a baby and needed an extra 2 weeks to care and to help, his wife care for the child. I don't know a business owner that would say no to that. I don't think we need to mandate this from a state legislator here and tell these businesses, not only do you need to give them the time off, but your employee needs to pay into the bank. And that's what's also troubling about this bill. So it leads me to the fraud piece of this. Is there, and through you, Madam Speaker, is there some sort of ramification if an individual utilizes this program and is found to be untruthful or, abused the program for whatever reason? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, before answering that question, I just want to address the issue of the double dipping for clarification and for the record that you cannot double dip in this program and that it wouldn't actually be punishing an employer. It would actually be saving an employer money if the employee contributed to the program that the state would offer upon passage of this bill. And to address the question regarding a penalty, yes, there is a penalty if you willfully commit fraud. As an employee, you must pay back the amount that you took from the fund, and you must also pay 50% of that penalty on top of that. If you are a medical provider who assists in a willful fraud act, then you are charged treble damages, and anyone else, employee or otherwise, that would assist an employee in willfully committing fraud would be subject to the same penalties as the employee. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And thank you, Madam, and I thank the good chair for her response there in terms of the penalties. If there's one piece here that I agree with, it's that we must hold those accountable who abuse any government program. And that goes without saying because we know that there is fraud and abuse across the board. Does the employer, through you, Madam Speaker, does the employer need to pay unemployment to the temp worker or to the individual that comes in to work while this individual leaves under the family medical leave program? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, if you could just restate that for clarification, please. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
So I'll put it into a situation. Let's say I'm a small business owner. I am a plumber, and I have 4 licensed plumbers. One of my plumbers decides to go out under this act, and I then need to hire someone to take his place. Let's say it is for 12 weeks. Would then that individual who comes in and takes the person's place that's going out under family medical leave, when the person returns, would I need to pay unemployment to that individual that took the person's place for those 12 weeks? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, if I'm understanding the question correctly, you want to know if you would have to pay unemployment insurance to the employee that is taking the paid leave, correct? Through you?
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, no. So in a situation where an individual leaves under this act, okay, so they leave and they're out for 12 weeks, the employer then needs to hire someone in that person's place in order to complete the line of work, the job, whatnot. So when that person returns from their leave, then if I'm an employer, I don't need those 2 people. So I have to lay one of them off, either the person that returned or the person that took the person's place that left. Would I need to pay that person unemployment? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, this bill does not change the current law. So if it is currently the law that you would have to do that, then that would be the case. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And through you, Madam Speaker, so this affirms what my thought was on this. A small business owner can't do without this individual because they really need to be there, and they need this person to complete the job. So they go out and they hire someone on a limb. They put an ad in the paper and they say, I'm losing somebody for 3 months, and I need to replace this person. They hire the licensed electrician, plumber, and whatnot. That person comes in. All of a sudden, the other individual comes back. Now you have 2 workers, and you only have work for 1. So you have to pay unemployment to the person that you're now laying off. That is an added cost to a small business owner. Has anyone vetted this? Has anyone thought to themselves, these folks are already strapped as it is across the state of Connecticut, and now we're going to not only have them lose talent, but we're going to tell them that they have to pay someone unemployment because you don't have room for the two people when the other guy or woman returns. It's somewhat mind-boggling. Through you, Madam Speaker, a question to the proponent. What increments could you use the proposed bill amendment? What is this, the smallest amount of time and the largest amount of time that you could use this and take advantage of? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Speaker, you can use up to 12 weeks. You can take increment time, and there's no stipulation on the increment. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, could you use the FMLA in increments of hours? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, that is correct. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
And if I'm understanding this correctly, Madam Speaker, and through you, one further question on this topic. So I could take 4 hours 2 times a week if I have a child that needs my assistance after school under this bill. Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, if you could please repeat the latter of that when you were talking about the child after school. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
Sure. So if I have a child that is in need of some sort of care after school and no one is able to care for them, and I am paying into this program 0.05% of my paycheck, and it just so happens that it's from 3 to 5 on Wednesday and 3 to 5 on Friday, and my child needs my care because there is no one else to care for them, and they have some sort of impairment, would then I be able to utilize this program through you?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, this program is being established for serious health conditions. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And through you, Madam Speaker, I guess the question similar to who is family, well, what is or where is it defined as a serious health condition?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, serious health condition means an illness, injury, impairment, or physical or mental condition that involves A, inpatient care in a hospital, hospice, nursing home, or residential medical care facility, or B, continuing treatment including outpatient treatment by a healthcare provider. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And through, thank you to the good chair. My next question here is on exemptions. We heard a lot about who was exempt. Through you, Madam Speaker, are the state unions exempt from this? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, if you are a state employee in a collective bargaining unit, you are exempt. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, are legislators exempt? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, no.
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, question to the proponent of the bill. When would a legislator be able to use this program? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, if there was a serious health condition that applied to the legislator or anyone defined in the bill that would qualify leave. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, so I am paid on a salary, as is everyone else in this chamber. How then would that be calculated through you?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I'm sure that would be resolved through the regs dictated by the authority. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, what authority? That worries me.
Representative Porter.
The authority, referring to the authority in the bill, which is represented by the 15-member board. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, Madam Speaker, a 15-member authority would decide how much as a legislator of my $25,000 per year that I'm getting is actually going to be disseminated to me if I was to take advantage of this program through you.
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, that is not correct. It would be 1/2 of 1%
we learned?
of your wage. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta?
And I guess I should rephrase the question. So it's 1/2 of 1% of my wage, and I don't know what 1/2 of 1% of $25,000 is. But would that be then dispensed over the number of weeks and averaged out? Because I do not receive a regular paycheck through you.
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, I can't speak to that example. I get paid monthly, so it'd be 1/2 of 1%, using myself as an example, of my monthly wages. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta?
So again, here we are finding ourselves in a dead end with this bill. And it's no wonder why, the small business community, the governor himself, and others have had so many issues with this piece of legislation. We cannot even define what a family member is, let alone who gets paid under this bill. We are exempting the state of Connecticut. I said it in the Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee. If this program was so good, then why are state employees in the bargaining unit exempt? I just can't understand it. If we are setting precedent up here, then we should all be paying into this, not just a select few of small businesses. We are not being truthful to the people in the state of Connecticut, guys. Come on. Let's be honest. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure this out. There are holes in this bill, major holes, that cannot be filled. We are trying to create something that can never exist perfectly. The worst part about it, we're trying to have the state of Connecticut run it. And if you look back at our track record, you should be very, very worried. If you are a business owner in this state, you should be worried if this passes today. If you are a person who works for the state of Connecticut, you're probably happy because you don't have to pay in. But if you are someone that lives paycheck to paycheck, that's now going to see a 0.05% reduction every week for something that you may not even qualify for, well, then you really, really must be concerned. The fact that this is an automated deduction from your paycheck will be certainly open for discussion later on. Why? Because if I get a check every week and I see less money in my check, the first question I'm going to say is, why did my paycheck go down? What happened? Then my next notion is going to be, well, I'm enrolled in this program. Gee, I buy car insurance, so if I get into an accident, I'm going to use my insurance. Well, if I see that I'm enrolled in this program and I meet the criteria, I'm not going to think twice about using this program. So when the state of Connecticut says we only need $20 million to start it up and we're just going to hire these people under the Department of Labor and then we're going to disseminate money to people that we see fit, I don't see this program being solvent. I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a genius. I didn't have that good of a GPA in college. But you know what? I can tell you that this program is going to be insolvent very soon, very quickly. And we're going to be back here trying to move money around in a shell game to fund it because there are folks that are going to be promised benefits that are then going to be calling us as legislators, asking us, why is the fund bankrupt? Similar to the Medicare Savings Program. Through you, Madam Speaker, if this program goes solvent, meaning there are not enough funds to disseminate to people that take advantage of this program, then where will the state of Connecticut make up those funds? Through you.
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, if this, and I do believe the good gentleman meant insolvent.
Excuse me, insolvent.
If this goes insolvent, We can raise the contribution cap up to 0.5%. If that has been done and it is still insolvent, then we will decrease the benefit. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And thank you to the good chair. So the benefit would decrease. Would that mean that an individual would not be eligible for the same wage replacement? Through you.
Representative Porter.
That is correct, Madam Speaker. The wage replacement benefit would be decreased at a minimum necessary and for a time necessary to ensure solvency. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Thank you. And so if I'm understanding this correctly, we could then be forced to pay, mandated to pay 0.05% tax to the state of Connecticut for this program, and then receive maybe 5% of your weekly salary, 10% of your weekly salary. And it leads me to my next question. Under this current amendment / bill, what is the wage replacement? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, the wage replacement would be 95% of the minimum wage up to 40 times. Anything over the minimum wage would be 60% at 40 times, with a maximum of 60 times the minimum wage. And an example of that would be if this was currently in effect today at $10.10 an hour, the wage replacement on that would be $606 a week. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Thank you, Madam. And so if I'm understanding this correctly, 60% above the minimum wage. So if I'm an individual, like an average Connecticut resident, and I make, let's say, $1,000 a week, I would then be eligible to take $600 per week for up to 12 weeks. Is that correct? Through you?
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I'd have to do the math on that. Through you.
Representative Polletta.
Well, shall I wait or?
Representative Porter, would you like us to wait?
I'm calculating as you wait. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
1 second, Representative Polletta.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Speaker, the good gentleman did say if he made $1,000 a week. Is that correct?
Representative Polletta for clarification.
Thank you. So if I was an individual earning $1,000 a week, I would be eligible for $600 per week wage replacement under this bill. Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, that is not correct. At the current minimum wage of $10.10 an hour, you would be eligible for $606 a week. But if you're asking about wage replacement for someone who's making $1,000 a week, okay, that's a totally different story. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, it was 95% for the minimum wage, but if an individual makes $1,000 a week, what would then they be eligible for per week under this? Thank you. Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker. Could the good gentleman please repeat that question? Through you.
Representative Polletta.
Absolutely. So if I was an average Connecticut resident and I'm making $1,000 per week and I am paying in $260 per year under this program, how much would I be eligible to take out each week?
Representative Porter. Through you, Madam Speaker, we would have to subtract the 1,000 from the 606. What's left over would be at 60%, and then you would add that together, and that would be the wage replacement for $1,000 a week. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I am having a tough time following the math of the good proponent here. I'm asking this question because I understand that it is 95% wage replacement for an individual making minimum wage. And that's noted, and I understand that. But my question is those that are making above minimum wage that are going to see their paycheck reduced 0.05%. So if an individual is making $1,000 per week, then I am curious to understand how much under this program they would be able to receive as compensation under this program through you.
Representative Porter?
Okay. At $1,000 a week, up to the minimum wage, it would be 95% wage replacement. Anything over that would be 60% wage replacement. Added together would be the full wage replacement for that employee making a wage of $1,000 a week. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
Representative Polletta?
And thank you, Madam Speaker. So again, I'm not a mathematician here, but I think what the point I'm trying to make here is if you make $1,000 a week, you're going to be paying $260 per year. Out of that $260, the benefit far exceeds the $260. Whether you make minimum wage or whether you make $1,000 a week. If you were to take the 12 weeks, or even close to the 12 weeks, you are far exceeding the amount that you are putting in. So what does that mean for the state of Connecticut? Well, I pay $260, my neighbor pays $260, we both withdraw $5,000. Well, guess what? We're at a net loss. And if tens of thousands of people do that across the state of Connecticut, we are at a further net loss. So the math does not add up here. And that is where I think the private market can utilize this so much better. They can do it in a much more efficient way. They can administer it in a much more efficient way. That's where I think the good proponent and I differ. Personally, and it is my opinion, I don't believe that the federal government should be in the business of providing insurance for anyone. To me, that is far beyond our reach as a state and as a nation. And we have seen through the effects of the Affordable Care Act how devastating it can be when the government tries to insert itself in the healthcare field. Bankruptcies across the nation. Insolvent program. That's the problem. And in our fiscal climate right now in the state of Connecticut, does anyone really think that we need to take on another entity to the Department of Labor? Does anyone think that we're well equipped to administer a program that could perhaps end up going insolvent in a year or two? I don't. That's why I'm opposed to the bill as written. The issue of Connecticut being competitive, out-migration. You know, someone came up to me a little while ago and said, you know, all of the states that are seeing out-migration, they're seeing their folks and businesses move to the southern states. They're seeing their folks and businesses move to states like Texas and South Carolina and Florida. That's where we should be modeling ourselves after. When I think of Connecticut, strategically located between New York City and Boston, beautiful shoreline, I think of a state with a lot of potential. There were folks that came to the public hearing on this bill and said, well, if you pass this piece of legislation, families are going to move into the state of Connecticut. They're going to flee here. They're going to love it here. They're all going to come here because of this bill. Well, I did a little research because I'm a facts person. I like to base my argument on facts. The states that have passed this bill do not see young families flocking to them. When I'm put in the same category as California, I'm deathly scared. When I think of the problems that California has, I don't want to be compared with California in any circumstance, unless it's going to vacation, on vacation. If I'm going there for vacation for a week, I'm happy, but I want to leave. I don't want to be in the fiscal mess that California's in. I'm worried that this bill will get us one step closer to California. And that worries me. It worries the businesses. It worries the taxpayers. And it brings me to a question about seniors. You know, we have done a good job in a bipartisan way, I think, in the last couple of years of trying to realize that we have to try to keep our retirees here in the state of Connecticut. You know, our retirees oftentimes use very little resources in the town. You know, most of their kids are out of the school system. So we want to keep our retirees in the state of Connecticut. They're a valuable part of our economy. They shop locally, you know, they support our local supermarkets and gas stations and eateries. So would an individual, through you, Madam Speaker, that is on Social Security be required to pay into this fund through you?
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker. The question, and just for clarification, is if someone is on Social Security benefits, would they have to pay into this program? Is that correct? Through you, Madam Speaker?
Representative Polletta?
Through you, Madam Speaker, yes. Would a senior citizen be required to pay into this program? Through you.
Representative Porter?
Wage replacement, employee, someone on Social Security benefits is not working, if I'm correct, and would not be defined as an employee, and that would not be wages. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta?
So through you, Madam Speaker, if I'm understanding the proponent correctly, if I receive a check every month from the government for Social Security, I will not see a 0.05% wage reduction from my check under this program. Through you.
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, no.
Representative Polletta?
And through you, Madam Speaker, if I am a senior citizen and I work a job, and let's say I'm going to use this as an example, I'm 65 years old and I work at a supermarket and I'm a cashier and I'm on a fixed income, but I work this job part-time, would I see a reduction in my paycheck for family medical leave as a senior citizen through you?
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, if the employee meets the threshold of 2325 within the quarters and the benefit of a base weekly, yes, you would. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta?
So in a hypothetical standpoint, if I'm a senior citizen and I'm paying into this program and my daughter is paying into this program and she's sick and I need time to take care of her and I get approved, and I'm sick and she needs time to take care of me and she gets approved, could they both get approved to take care of one another under this program and still get the wage replacement? Through you.
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, that would be something that would be determined through the certification and regs process, but I'm having a problem understanding how two sick people would be taking care of one another. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta?
And through you, Madam Speaker, I'm using a real-life example. I am a senior citizen cashier, and I'm having health issues, and I have not even a daughter, but a best friend who cares for me. I can't really pay my bills, but I need to go to work because no one's giving me any money, and I really need a ride to the doctors, and I need someone to care for me after I had a one-day surgery. Would the person that's considered my best friend be able to take advantage of this plan through you?
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, if that is determined through this program and the certification and regs process, yes. If not, no. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta?
And thank you to the good chair. So on the other side of that, on the flip side of it, if I am an individual that is still working in good health, but that same person that helped me 2 weeks ago now needs my help because they're having a one-day surgery, can then, if I meet the requirements, take time and paid time off to care for them through you?
Representative Porter?
Through you, Madam Speaker, the same answer applies. Through you.
Representative Polletta?
So I guess, again, brings me to another point that I'm really concerned about with this bill. So I fear that there are a lot of folks out there that are on fixed incomes that are working a supplemental job to help pay for their high electric rates, highest gas tax in the nation, other, unbelievably high cost of living in the state of Connecticut. So they are going to be paying 0.05% of their check into a program that, in my opinion, is intended to help those perhaps, I don't know if I'm going to take care of a sick parent or a grandparent, but now I'm finding out that my grandparent is going to pay into this program. So in essence, my grandmother could be taking care of me if she's paying into the program. If I need a ride to a surgery, a one-day surgery, I need someone to stay with me. I really can't understand the logic. And again, I'm really, really fearful about the abuse and fraud here. Never mind the fact that these folks are going to all be paying into this, but who's going to be withdrawing? Who is going to be reaping the benefits here? I thought that this bill was intended to care for a very small scope of folks, immediate family that really needed it. Now I'm hearing a friend can care for somebody that they think is their relative, that a grandparent can care for a friend that pays their bills, that a 35-year-old person could care for the 75-year-old neighbor that babysat them 20 years ago, that my aunt that lives in Nevada really needs me because, all of a sudden she's having a surgery in 2 weeks, she doesn't have anybody to take care of her, so I'm going to fly out there and get 95% wage replacement. I do not understand the logic. It's not narrow enough. It's going to become insolvent. Can't say it enough times. And through you, Madam Speaker, one final question for the proponent here before I turn it over to my esteemed colleagues. Has any small business group that advocates across the state of Connecticut for the heartbeat of our state, for the job creators, as I asked in a similar debate 2 weeks ago, has any of those small business groups spoke in favor of this piece of legislation? Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I have spoken to several small businesses, some specifically in my district, that not only support this bill, but they also support minimum wage as well. Claire's Cornucopia is one that comes to mind. And I would like to also state, we keep talking about competition and what this does for businesses. It actually levels the playing field for small businesses to compete with corporations and large businesses that have no problem offering this benefit. Claire herself has said to me that she wants this benefit for her employees, but she cannot afford to pay for this benefit for her employees. And nonetheless, she still makes a way for them to go out when they need leave and make do until they can get back. And why is that? For the fact that my good colleague mentioned with his own business, that these people are like family to us, and that we do want to see them taken care of in their desperate times of need. And this bill is actually for low-wage workers. It is for the people that are struggling from paycheck to paycheck trying to make ends meet. We talk about our sympathy. I'm here to tell you that sympathy is not suffice. This is life or death. People are choosing to go to work because they have to. They can't afford not to stay home or to have the surgery or to take care of a loved one. This is why we're doing this. And not to mention that 88% of the people in the state of Connecticut who are voters support this family medical paid leave. And I can't tell you how many calls, emails, and actually face-to-face visits I've gotten in this building and at my front door, urgent and begging me to make sure that this bill gets passed this year because it is long overdue, Madam Speaker. And just to go back to the example of a part-time worker, 20 hours at $10.10 an hour, 0.5% of that would be $1.01. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
Through you, Madam Speaker, my original question was the Food and Restaurant Association, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, Connecticut Business and Industry Association, the NFIB, all the groups across the state of Connecticut that represent job creators, has one of those groups mentioned before supported this piece of legislation? Through you.
Representative Porter.
Through you, Madam Speaker, I thank the good gentleman for referring to them this time, because that's not what he said initially. But no, I will state this. I am the chair of the Labor and Public Employees Committee, and that is who I heard from on this bill. Through you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Polletta.
And through you, Madam Speaker, just a point of clarification as well here. In terms of a poll where 80-something% of people support family medical leave, I think everyone in this chamber supports family medical leave. But when they hear that it's a payroll tax and a deduction of 0.05%, that number goes down by more than half. So until they find the details of what this bill is about and they realize that they're going to see less money in their pockets, then they start to drop off and say, whoa, hold a minute, pump the brakes, this is not what I thought it was. And we've seen that with a lot of proposals this session. And as far as our businesses go, you know, I mention the business groups because they are the backbone of our community. When a small business organization comes in for a public hearing testimony, I don't think that they come in there trying to tangle our life up and make it hard. I think they want to compromise, and I think they actually do enjoy working with the good representative on her side of the aisle and myself on our side of the aisle. I don't think that they want to see a bill like this necessarily fail, but I think they share the same sentiment that I do, that we just want to get there in a different way. We want to see this policy enacted in the state of Connecticut, but we don't want to see every person pay, minus state employees union, pay 0.05%. So when it hits everyone across the board, the support for this program goes down like a cliff. Because people start realizing they're going to lose money out of their check every week. Less money for gas in the car, less money for groceries, less money to go out to eat, less money to pay my electric bill, my oil. You know, when you deduct someone's paycheck without even telling them you're going to do so for a program that they may never use, they're going to be infuriated. Now, the good chair talked about knocking doors. Come to the 68th House District and knock doors. Tell them you're going to take 0.05% out of their paycheck across the board. I wouldn't even want to do that in my district, to tell you the truth. I got some great people. I think they kicked me off their property. They're already taxed enough. They don't need another tax. This bill is bad for business. This bill is bad for Connecticut. There is a philosophical difference in this chamber about how we get to certain pieces of legislation. Do we take a big government approach? Do we let the government control everything? If you think that the government does a good job at controlling everything, then you should vote yes on this bill. If you believe that the state of Connecticut can manage this program as effectively as it's managed its budget and everything else over the last 20 or 30 years, then you should definitely vote yes today. If you think that government should have a larger role in our lives as a whole, then you should vote yes on this piece of legislation. Absolutely. If you think that mandating everyone to pay a payroll tax into this program is a good thing for families, then you should vote yes. But there is a reason why a large group of people have spoke against this bill. There is a reason why not one business group has come out in favor of this bill. We have a chance again with this bill to say to ourselves, let's hold off, let's look at both sides of the aisle, where the pros are, where the cons are, where we can compromise, and we can pass something different and send it back to the Senate. We can send a message to the small business owners in Connecticut that we are actually looking out for them. It's not rocket science. We can tell people that government doesn't need to be in your lives all the time. That is not a democracy. That is not capitalism. A government and an economy cannot grow an economy cannot grow when a government is hindering over it all the time. When there's a tent over every small business with the word government written on it, saying, I'm here to tax you. I'm here to take your hard-earned money. I can do it better than you. You're the insurance capital of the world, Hartford. Nope, we can do it better than you. We'll run our own program. We have to think in a practical way. We have that opportunity to do that. There will be amendments on this bill. There will be alternatives offered. And I employ my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to look at the amendment that's going to get offered in a little while and think to themselves, you know what, maybe this is a better route for my district. Maybe in 2020, when I'm going out to knock on doors, someone's going to say to me, Representative, thank you. You didn't take 0.05% out of my paycheck. Did anyone ever think that they may put a lawn sign up for you if you save them some money? That's what people in my district are saying. Get the government out of my life, and I'll vote for you. I really hope that, again, in all of the time we've spent this session talking about a myriad of issues, when a lot of them have been bipartisan, I really hope that today we can take a step back, take some time to look at the details of this bill, recognize that even the governor has said that there are some serious problems here, and that we need to fix what's wrong in this bill before we just vote it out today, tonight, tomorrow, whenever, and say, this is the law. Because we do have a chance to pump the brakes today, and we do have a chance to get on the side of Connecticut small businesses, Connecticut taxpayers. We're in our final stretch. Let's send them a message. Let's not adopt this amendment. Let's vote no right now, and let's renegotiate it. Thank you.